So after my last video where I pointed out that Star Wars is pro-Jedi propaganda written by a Jedi sympathizer called George Lucas, and that the text themselves, the Star Wars canon, is not actually something we can rely on to get an accurate view of the Sith, especially as there is enough included in it to show us that the Sith are not entirely evil. This has apparently marked me as a Sith sympathizer, a Sith simp, if you will. But I'm going to use this video to show that I'm not. I'm just interested in addressing that which we can be sure of and how we can verify what it is we're saying. Because the Jedi worldview is incomplete, it's deliberately incomplete, and it's enforced. It's deliberately policed with force through persecution and the extermination of their ideological enemies to create a kind of religious domination of the galaxy. Whereas Palpatine was merely pointing out that both sides have their merits. Palpatine was actually not saying we should entirely embrace the dark side. He has studied both. And I think that that's an important factor. But I want to be clear that this is not necessarily saying that the dark side is superior to the light side, or that a focus or excess of the dark side is in any way a good thing. And we can see that this would be the case by drawing on the Jedi Code and the Sith Code. This is the Jedi Code, and as soon as you start dealing in these kinds of absolutes, because apparently only Siths deal in absolutes, even though the Jedi Code is pretty damn absolute itself, but the Sith Code is no less absolute, which we'll get to shortly. As soon as you start dealing in these kind of absolutes, well, you find yourself put in a position where you've delegitimized the other side to the point where they have to be evil to validate that which you are saying about them. And so if you can accept the innate humanity and any kind of goodness that's located in your opposite, then you admit that you are not the sole arbiter and bastion of good and truth and harmony. And so you have to change your ways, and presumably they will be then forced to change theirs. This is actually what I think would be a good idea, and I have heard, although I'm not an expert on, in fact I don't read any Star Wars sort of like the extra textual stuff from outside of the films, but I have heard that this is apparently something Luke had come to the conclusion of and created a grey Jedi Order, but I don't know anything about that, so I'm not going to go into it. But this is the Jedi Code, and there are two forms of it. One is apparently for the younglings, and then this leads into the top one here, which is apparently the mantra. And this one is the most canonical one I can find. It comes earliest in a series of comic books. This one comes slightly later, but only by a couple of months. But it says essentially the same thing. So we'll begin with the one they taught youth. Emotion yet peace, ignorance yet knowledge, passion yet serenity, chaos yet harmony, death yet force. And you can see this is kind of a first step into an ideological position. It accepts that emotion, ignorance, passion, chaos, and death are things that exist, and they exist with peace, knowledge, serenity, harmony, and the force. That's actually quite a good formulation, but it's also quite seductive. It's not where the Jedi philosophy ends. It's a step towards Jedi radicalization. And the yet feels somewhat negatory in the way that it's being used here. It seems to be, there is emotion, yet. It's like saying but. It negates that which comes before. And this then finds its full expression in the code that's for the adults. There is no emotion, there is peace. So the emotion part has been totally negated at this point, not just negated by implication. No, it's gone now. There is no emotion, there is peace. Well, what's that a statement of? Is that I mean, that has to be normative, because that's obviously not descriptive. That no one's going to say there is no such thing as emotion. People express emotions all the time, and you're not going to just unilaterally declare peace because there are wars raging all over the Star Wars galaxy. I mean, it's called Star Wars. So that must be a normative, what they wish to achieve. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. Again, same. There is no passion, there is serenity, there is no chaos, there is harmony, there is no death, there is the Force. So they wish for the perfect Jedi end state of the atomized, rational individuals who show no emotion, who are obsessed with knowledge, show no passion, order, and then get absorbed off into the Force Obi-Wan Kenobi style. well, I mean, that's definitely going to be for some small portion of the religious zealots that make up the Jedi, but that's obviously not something that the regular person can live with, and so why would we want Jedi philosophy imposed on us, as a totalizing religious view? And so this is how the Jedi are ultimately trying to make the world. This is their end state. This is their goal. And the Code of the Sith is almost the reverse of this, but not quite. It's actually incomplete. Now, the Code of the Sith came in 2003, I think it was, in the video game Knights of the Old Republic. I've had lots and lots of people tell me I should play this, and I mean, I'm not really a Star Wars fan, but maybe I should, because it sounds really interesting, because apparently all of these themes are investigated in the game, and I've got an old friend who played it years ago. He's like, man, you should play this, is really great. But again, I was never really that interested in Star Wars, so I just didn't. But anyway, the Sith Code, it was first created in 2003, but it seems to have been adopted as canon, and it seems to have been taken in by quite a few other canonical Star Wars works. So I will use it because I don't have anything better to compare and contrast with, frankly. The Sith Code is very interesting because it is the opposite of the Jedi Code in many ways. For example, where the Jedi Code is normative, we want to achieve a place where there is no emotion, there is no ignorance, there is no passion, there is no chaos, there is no death, because these things do exist. And we want to achieve peace, knowledge, serenity, harmony, and the Force. The Sith Code is just descriptive. They are just talking about the failures of the Jedi. Peace is a lie, there is only passion. Well, again, there is war everywhere, and there are emotions, so this is a description, this is a negation of the Jedi position, and a reversal of it. We are not having your normative claim. Your normative claim is false. The truth is actually that there is only passion. Now, there is an argument to be made by this from Jonathan Haidt with his Elephant and Rider view, which is the rational part of the brain acts kind of as the rider on the back of an elephant, and the elephant being the emotional aspect of a person. And generally, the rider has to rationalize what the emotional side has done. But in certain conditions, when the elephant feels calm and doesn't feel under any threat, the rational side can actually change the direction that the elephant is going in. So that's kind of true. There's a part of this that is kind of true. People are driven by their passions. This is something that philosophers have realized for a long time. David Hume, going back to David Hume, he said that reason is the slave of the passions, and well, he's almost right. And for the lack of testing that he could do in his day, he definitely was a lot closer to the mark than most. And so the Sith Code, beginning with this, peace is a lie, there is only passion, that's a lot more true than the Jedi normative desire for there to be no emotion, there is only peace. It is a lot more realistic to say that actually, yes, people are really emotional and operate on their emotions, and their reason is essentially a post hoc rationalization of what it is they've already done. So there is definitely a strength against the Jedi argument being made here. So anyway, through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me. So the following three lines are merely almost Yoda-like in their again descriptive but strategic method of achieving victory. This is very much like fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. I mean, I guess if you just assert it, Yoda, that must be true. I actually have always really hated this little bit because the fear leads to anger, fine, I can believe that. But I think that fear leads to hate more. I think fear of something leads people to hate things. And then I think the hate is what leads to anger, and then anger leads to suffering, because from your anger you take a direct action, and then suffering begins. So I always thought that this was bad, frankly. I always thought this was badly formulated, and again, I mean, it feels a bit arbitrary, but let's go with that. I can believe that fear leads to, say, hate, then hate leads to anger, and anger leads to suffering. I can believe that would be an emotional procession that we can go on. And so we end up, we come back to this, and it's basically the same thing. It's like, look, if I can become strong, I can gain power. If I can gain power, I can gain victory. Well, these are true things. I mean, strength and power, you could say, are synonymous, but we'll assume that they're not. We'll give them a charitable interpretation. And so through victory, my chains are broken, the Force shall free me. Now, the chains were the Jedi Code, the Jedi Order itself, because the Sith were Jedi who were being told that they couldn't study one side of the Force and could only study the other side. And so they have a different worldview that leads us to think that, in fact, there is no use for reason. They seem to have repudiated it entirely. We are talking entirely about action, so nothing a priori, nothing that can be determined through rationalization. All of this is a posteriori, or a posteriori. This is all determined contingently by experiences in the world, and that's the purpose of it. It's actually not trying to establish necessarily what is good or evil. It is trying to establish freedom. And the problem with the concept of freedom is that, well, how far does that go? If chains are to be broken, which they appear to be, then ultimately you'll probably end up in the same position as the Jedi, where you try to break every single chain that binds you. For example, the chains of duty and love and honor that tie people together, as in familial relationships, or spousal relationships, parent-child relationships, things like this. So essentially, the Sith Code will lead to the same kind of atomization and loneliness that the Jedi have themselves experienced, except it won't be done through reason. And I have to say, as annoying as the Jedi are for trying to make everything about reason, reason is an important aspect of a person. It helps them understand themselves and the world around them. This person sounds like they're going to be emotional, highly strung, incredibly sensitive, reactive, despising other people around them. And it sounds like a recipe to create someone like, what's the guy with the burning cross? Kylo Ren. It sounds like you're going to create someone who is just angry all the time, obsessed with their own emotions and unable to control their emotions. Because for all the Jedi faults, for pretending that humans don't have an animal side, at least they understand the value of controlling one's own emotions, not allowing your emotions to run away with you. And this is something that on a personal level you will really want. Who wants to be Kylo Ren, smashing things up, going, well, there's only passion. Through passion I gain strength. Through strength I gain power. Through power I gain victory. It's like, actually, that's not necessarily true. If you gain your strength from your passion, then you are not being level-headed, and you will probably not gain victory because you'll probably be easy to lead. You'll probably be baited into situations that are not situations you particularly like, and that end up causing you to fail, causing you to lose. So I think that a world that was all Jedi or all Sith would be just as bad as one another. It would be horrible to live under the kind of austere, repressive order of the Jedi as the Jedi have envisaged it. However, it would also be bad to live under the insane, chaotic, emotion-fueled nightmare that the Sith would also create. There is an aspect of humanity that is being elevated, and not just elevated though, being made supreme and unique in our concern with this particular code, as well as with the Jedi Code, and any sensible map for your life will surely take parts of both of these philosophies, meld them together, and then move forward on the understanding that both are aspects of human nature. We should have normative and descriptive philosophies joining together and then moving forward into something that better represents reality, which incidentally was Palpatine's view of the Force. So once again, I have to let you know, because YouTube have demonetized this channel, that we have a shirt called Star Wars is Pro-Jedi Propaganda, because it is pro-Jedi propaganda. Palpatine was the person on the right path to solving the riddle of the Force, according to the Star Wars propaganda that we have been shown. But that is not to say that there wouldn't be other Sith Lords that would say, nope, only the Sith have got it right and institute the Sith regime as implied by the Jedi Code. But in the meantime, you can check it out on Teespring, so it'll be linked in the description, and I'll see you in the next video.